She told me she loved me, looked me in the eye and swore. And behind my back, she was doing something I will never forget. And when I found out the truth, I did something I never expected myself to do. At the end of the story, you will be shocked how everything turned upside down. The first time Kate started leaving the house early, I didn't question it. I mean, she used to be a night owl, always dragging her feet in the morning. So when she suddenly got into jogging and claimed she liked sunrises now, I figured maybe the mid-30s crisis was hitting her in reverse. I wasn't going to shame her for taking better care of herself. At first, she seemed energized, even happy, like that runner's high people talk about finally made it into our living room. But a few weeks in, something about her rhythm started feeling off. Her return times varied more than you'd expect, and her phone was always upside down on the counter. No music playing, no sweaty gear in the laundry, just a bottle of coconut water and a locked bathroom door. I let it slide until the morning my son, Alex, 6 years old and a little too observant for his own good, looked up at me over his cereal and asked, "Why is Mom getting into a stranger's car?" I was halfway through making coffee, and his words froze something inside me. I asked what he meant, casually, like I was just clarifying, but the damage was done. He said she waved goodbye to them, jogged down the street, and then climbed into a car. He thought maybe it was an Uber, but she didn't take her phone. I didn't even reply. I just nodded like I understood and told him to finish his cereal. That evening, I walked out to her car with the trash and peeked inside like I was checking for forgotten cups or wrappers. That's when I saw the scuff on the passenger side floor mat. A clean, hard smear of dark polish that definitely didn't come from any of Kate's shoes. She mostly wore runners or sandals. This looked like the sole of a man's dress shoe. It was too big, too angled, too defined. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it for a while, then backed away and walked inside like nothing had changed. From then on, I watched. Quietly. No confrontation, no accusations. I needed to see more. So when she said she was going to her sister's place on a Thursday night, I didn't even flinch. I just nodded and offered to take care of the kids. She left without much emotion, threw on a denim jacket and said she'd be back by midnight. The moment the door shut, I walked to the kitchen counter where she'd left her Apple Watch charging. The screen was still lit up, and she hadn't disabled the location tracking. It took 30 seconds to sync her account to my phone, and just like that, her lie fell apart. She wasn't anywhere near her sister's place. Instead, her location pulsed in a cul-de-sac about 25 minutes away, in a neighborhood we'd never been to, tucked behind a strip of storage units and a gas station. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my keys and left. I kept my phone in my lap as I drove, watching her dot shift across the map. For a few minutes, I wondered what I'd actually do if I caught her in the act. Would I storm up, bang on the door, scream in front of strangers? But part of me already knew I wouldn't do that. Not yet. I wasn't ready to make this public, not until I understood the scale of what I was dealing with. I turned onto the street just as the sun dipped behind the trees. Her car was parked at the edge of the sidewalk, and I pulled up half a block away, cutting the engine. A few minutes passed before I saw her. Kate came out from the front porch of a squat single-story house, holding hands with a man I'd never seen before. He wasn't some flirty gym guy or harmless coworker. This guy was older, broader, scruff around the chin, wearing a jacket like he wasn't planning on staying long. They weren't being discreet. She laughed at something he said and leaned into him like they'd done this 100 times before. My hands were tight on the steering wheel, but I didn't move. I didn't honk. I didn't get out. I let them walk away, then turned the car around and drove home without saying a word. Later that night, I sat in my garage with a beer and started digging. I couldn't sleep until I knew who he was. I remembered the house number and searched the property records first. It was under someone named Travis D. Lambert. That name meant nothing until I ran a background check and found something that made my stomach twist. Assault and battery, possession, a sealed court record from 3 years ago. This wasn't some random fling. This was calculated, planned. She knew who he was, and she'd chosen him anyway. It wasn't just betrayal, it was dangerous. And I was now wide awake in a war I hadn't even realized I was fighting. Something in me shifted that night. Subtle, deep, and cold. I didn't want to scream or throw things. I wanted to know everything, because Kate had just turned this into something far more serious than heartbreak, and I was going to be ready for whatever the hell came next. After that night, I moved differently. I didn't sleep much, but I wasn't exhausted either. I was alert, wired in a way that kept me 2 steps ahead of my own emotions. Every smile I gave Kate was calculated. Every nod, every lazy kiss on the cheek, all of it was a performance. She had no idea I'd seen her holding that man's hand. No clue I'd looked into his record. She carried on like nothing had changed, still jogging, still claiming weekend visits to her sisters. I made it easy for her. I asked fewer questions. I gave her space. I made it feel safe for her to keep lying. And she did, boldly. The following Thursday, she left again. Same excuse. Only this time, she didn't leave her Apple Watch behind. She had it on, strapped tight around her wrist like she'd remembered the mistake. That was fine. I already had her account synced. What she didn't notice was that I'd turned on location tracking through her iPad too. It mirrored her movements in real time. And as soon as she backed out of our driveway, I watched her signal drift farther away from where her sister lived. She was headed back toward that same neighborhood, but this time, she took a different turn a few blocks before reaching that house. New address. Same plan. I waited an hour, then drove out there again, keeping low behind the wheel, stopping 3 blocks away. I took a long walk toward the area, phone in my pocket, hat pulled low. The street was lined with identical homes, all beige siding and patchy lawns. Hers was the only car in front of house number 1637. A light was on in the front room, and the blinds were cracked open. I stood in the shadows just beyond the streetlight's reach and waited. 10 minutes later, the front door opened, and there she was again. Kate, wrapped in the arms of a man who didn't seem worried about being seen. They kissed like teenagers, like people who thought the world owed them privacy. I didn't take a photo. Not yet. I didn't need proof for myself. I already believed what I saw. I needed something bigger, something they didn't even know they were giving me. I walked back to my car, fingers ice cold despite the mild air. As I drove home, I was already making the next move in my mind. It was time to stop observing and start collecting. That weekend, I met up with an old friend, Jake. He was the type of guy you wanted in your corner when things got messy. Smart with tech, better with secrets, and never asked too many questions. I told him I needed help accessing some private data, and he just nodded and told me what he'd need. A device Kate used frequently, ideally her laptop. The next day I told Kate my own computer crashed and asked to borrow hers for work. She didn't flinch, handed it over and told me not to mess with her bookmarks. I smiled, told her I wouldn't touch anything personal. That was the easiest lie I've ever told. Jake worked fast. By Monday morning, he handed me a flash drive and said, "You're not gonna like what's on there." He was right. I spent that night in the garage again, laptop propped on the workbench, staring at the raw, unfiltered conversations between Kate and the man she'd been seeing. His name was confirmed, Travis Lambert. Her phone referred to him as T, and their chats were worse than I expected. They weren't just about sex or how much they missed each other. They were talking about me, about how I was too calm, how I might be playing dumb. Then came the one that froze me. "What do we do if Mark finds out?" And his answer, "We'll handle it. I've handled worse." That line hit like a crowbar to the ribs. I stared at it for 20 straight minutes. This wasn't just an affair anymore. There was a tone in their words, a shared paranoia, like they knew this thing would explode and were already plotting how to survive it. I wasn't just an obstacle. I was a problem they were preparing to handle. That kind of talk didn't sound like cheating. It sounded like a setup. Like maybe Travis wasn't just some fling. Maybe this was deeper, strategic. And that's when something cracked open inside me. A different version of me stepped forward. Colder, sharper, more patient. If they were playing a game, I was going to join it. But I wouldn't walk onto the board as myself. I needed a new identity. Someone close enough to the chaos to earn trust, but distant enough not to draw suspicion. That night I created a burner email. set up a clean phone number using a secure app. Then I crafted the message. Hey, this is Alex's friend. We met once, briefly. I know things. About Mark. It was vague enough to catch attention, personal enough to seem real. I sent it to Kate through a fake Facebook account, with no photo, no history. Then I waited. 12 hours later, she replied. She didn't ask who I was. She just said, "What do you know?" And I smiled, because the game had just changed. When Kate replied to the burner account, she didn't hesitate. No suspicion, no demand for proof, just a fast, anxious, "What do you know?" That told me everything I needed. She assumed Alex's friend was real, someone close enough to be a threat. I kept things vague. I said I saw her in a neighborhood that didn't match her story, mentioned a car that didn't belong near our street. Then I wrote, "Mark deserves to know." That line worked like a key. She opened right up. Over the next few days, we messaged more. She confessed she'd been seeing someone, said it just happened, blamed the distance between us. She never mentioned the man's record or what they'd said about handling things. Instead, she tried to justify the affair like she'd earned it somehow. Then came the part that cracked me open. "I don't even know if Emma's really his." She dropped that in the middle of a paragraph, like it wasn't a landmine. Emma, our 5-year-old, the girl I'd helped through fevers, night terrors, and her first day of preschool. She was my world. But now, I had to know. I drove to a clinic outside of town and paid in cash for a paternity test. I brought my own hair and Emma's from her brush. 3 days later, I picked up the results. I opened the envelope alone, parked under an overpass where no one could see me. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. The moment I read that, the world didn't fall apart. It froze. Emma wasn't mine by blood, but she still reached for my hand every night, still called me dad. That wouldn't change. What did change was my tolerance for silence. Kate had robbed me of a truth I had every right to know. And still, I didn't confront her. I couldn't yet. The scale of her betrayal needed a response she'd never forget. I went back to Jake, told him about the DNA test. We boosted the surveillance, captured her live message threads, backed up deleted emails. The more I saw, the worse it got. Her conversations with Travis weren't just about love or lust. They were tactical. They talked about moving money, hiding assets, even twisting custody in case of divorce. She sent him photos of our house, our kids, my schedule. She called it planning for later. I posed as Alex's friend and kept her talking. One night she typed, "Once it started, I realized maybe this is the life I was meant for, not what I built with Mark." I saved that, saved everything. Jake helped me organize it into a clean timeline. Messages, voice memos, full context. At home, I stayed calm. Kate smiled like we were fine. She even tried to reconnect in bed once. Her guilt, maybe. I let her, played along, because I knew what she didn't. Her birthday was in 2 weeks, and by then, I'd have the stage ready. The days leading up to Kate's birthday passed in a slow, focused rhythm. She floated through our home like nothing was unraveling beneath her. She laughed with the kids, played music while cooking, even kissed me goodnight like she still believed I was asleep to everything. But I wasn't just watching anymore. I was setting the final pieces in place. I had enough evidence to destroy the illusion she built, and now I was sharpening the knife she handed me. One night after she fell asleep, I slipped her phone from the nightstand and sat in the hallway with the screen dimmed. I knew the passcode. She still trusted I wouldn't look. In her Notes app, synced to her cloud, I found something older. Archived messages between her and Travis, hidden from the main text threads. It was all there. They'd been talking about me for months, almost a year. My income, my business accounts, even what parts of the house Kate thought she could claim in court. But it was one line that snapped everything into sharp focus. If he finds out, we play the long game. Make him look unstable. And her reply, "I've got stories. I can push him until he snaps." She hadn't just cheated. She'd planned what came after. The lies weren't spontaneous. They were strategic. I sent the files to the vault, The name Jake and I gave our growing folder of evidence. Screenshots, deleted emails, location pings, audio recordings. It was all there, backed up 3 ways. This wasn't just a personal betrayal. It was documentation of manipulation, financial scheming, and potential custody setup. They weren't scared of me. They were preparing to bury me. Still, I needed something more visceral, something that would remove all doubt. So I used the Alex's friend identity one more time. I told Kate I had something to show her, said we needed to meet in person. She agreed, too quickly, and said she'd come alone. She didn't. I watched from behind a delivery truck near the gym as she stood on the sidewalk checking her phone. Travis was parked across the street in a silver sedan. I recorded the whole thing. She typed, "He's not here." He replied, "Good. We don't need a loose end." That phrase stuck with me. A loose end. That's what I was to them now. Something to tie up, cut off, forgotten once removed. I let them leave without knowing I'd been there, and then I took that recording and added it to the vault. The game was over. Now came the show. I booked a small gallery downtown under the pretense of a surprise birthday party. Kate was thrilled. She didn't question why I suddenly wanted to celebrate her. I let her pick out food vendors and floral arrangements, told her to invite everyone. Family, friends, her co-workers, even her parents. She wanted the night to be perfect, and I smiled, told her it would be unforgettable. Behind the scenes, Jake and I transformed the gallery. Hidden projectors, synced audio, a rolling timeline of every message, every lie, every plan. It opened with a photo of us as a family, Kate, me, and the kids. Then came her chats with Travis, her voice notes, her statement about Emma, how she didn't know if I was really the father. Each item faded in slowly, building the betrayal piece by piece. Every file was backed up in visible folders on a side screen, in case anyone thought it had been edited. I didn't need to manipulate anything. The truth was ugly enough on its own. The night before the party, I stayed in the gallery after setup. I played the presentation alone, standing beneath the dim lights, listening to her voice echo off the walls. "I can push him until he breaks." She was wrong. I didn't break. I built a stage. The day of Kate's birthday felt like it had been pulled from someone else's life. She moved through the morning in high spirits, humming while brushing her hair, smiling at her reflection, asking if her dress made her look too overdressed. I told her she looked great. I even helped zip the bag. She was glowing, convinced that the night would be all about her. In a way, she was right. By 6, the gallery was already filling. Her parents arrived early, her father stone-faced as always, her mother trying to act warm. My family came next. Friends from both sides filtered in, exchanging hugs, commenting on how nice everything looked. The drinks were flowing, the lights were soft, and Kate floated through the room like a star. She laughed with old friends, posed for pictures, kissed me on the cheek for the camera. If someone had captured that moment in a photo, you'd never guess what was about to unfold. I waited until everyone had a drink in hand, until the last wave of small talk had hit its peak. Then I stepped to the front of the room and tapped the mic. The chatter died down slowly. Kate turned to look at me, smiling like she expected a speech about love and milestones. Instead, I said, "Tonight isn't about a birthday, it's about truth." At first, no one reacted. Then the lights dimmed and the screen lit up behind me. The first photo appeared, Kate and me with the kids at the beach, frozen in a moment that looked perfect. Then the images started shifting. Her messages with Travis appeared, line by line. The texts about our finances, about how to handle me. A few people gasped when they saw her words on screen. Her father's face twisted, his jaw clenched. Kate's smile faltered, and for a moment, she didn't move, like she didn't fully understand what she was seeing. Then her voice played from the hidden speaker system. "I don't even know if Emma is really his." The room went dead quiet. Her friend covered her mouth. Someone stepped away toward the door. I watched Kate slowly turn toward me, her eyes wide, her hands trembling just slightly. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Another clip followed, her laughing, telling Travis she was glad I hadn't figured it out yet. The sequence built, clip after clip, message after message, leading to the conversation about making me look unstable. The audience shifted from confused to horrified. Some looked at her, some looked at me, some stared at the screen like it was a crime scene. Her father didn't wait for the last clip. He just walked out, straight through the crowd, past his daughter, without a word. Kate finally spoke, quietly, angrily, but no one could hear over the final message. Her telling Travis, "We just need to hold out. He's too calm. That's the part that scares me." When the lights came back on, she was already backing away. The room hadn't moved. Her friends didn't follow. Her mother looked shattered. And Kate looked like someone who'd just realized the house was on fire and the exits were gone. She turned and bolted out the door, heels clicking against the floor, one hand over her mouth. No one followed her. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. The evidence had already spoken. I stayed behind while people filtered out in silence. A few muttered apologies. Some just nodded. One of Kate's friends grabbed her coat and left without saying a word. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I was sitting alone in the kitchen when my phone buzzed. It was from Kate. "You had no right." That's all it said. I stared at the message for a long time, then turned the phone over and left it face down on the counter. There was no rage in me, no desire to fight back. I had already won in the only way that mattered, not with fists, not with threats, with truth, unedited, unfiltered, undeniable. But this wasn't the end. It was the fracture that would make the next battle inevitable. Because Kate wasn't done, and neither was I. After the gallery night, Kate disappeared. No calls, no messages, not a single attempt to show her face at the house. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to. Everyone who mattered had seen what she really was. Her mask was gone, and what was left behind didn't have the power it used to. Her family stopped checking in. Most of her friends went quiet, but I knew it wasn't over. That kind of shame doesn't just sit still, it festers, then fights back. It started a week later. She reappeared, not at the door, but online. Carefully posed photos, captions about starting over, and healing from betrayal. The kind of passive-aggressive messaging that reeks of desperation. She painted herself as the victim, as if everything I revealed had been a malicious attack, not her own choices coming to light. I ignored it. I didn't respond, didn't post a word. I had already moved to the next phase, something permanent. Through my attorney, I filed a motion to terminate Kate's parental rights. The evidence spoke for itself. Recorded conversations about using the kids against me, messages about shifting money, and the fact that one of the children wasn't biologically mine. It wasn't about revenge. It was about safety, structure, and giving the kids a life without manipulation hanging over their heads. That's when she snapped. She started throwing out wild accusations, online and private messages, even trying to contact mutual friends with claims that I'd emotionally abused her, controlled her, gaslit her. But what she didn't know was that everything she said was being documented. My attorney had already forwarded her original confessions and voice notes to the authorities. Then came the turning point, a civil notice. She was fined for submitting false statements to slow down the custody case. On top of that, her accounts were partially frozen. Financial misconduct tied to her attempt to hide shared funds with Travis. It was like watching her flail in quicksand. The more she struggled, the faster she sank. At home, I tightened things up. Jake helped me lock every shared account, change every password, scrub every trace of digital access she might have kept. The cameras got upgraded, locks replaced. The kids never noticed the security part. What they did notice was the calm. No more whispered arguments behind closed doors. No more long absences or strange tension after jogging trips. Just me, them, in a house that finally felt like ours again. Emma didn't ask much about Kate. She was too young, but Alex did, less than before, and always with a caution in his voice, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to miss her. I never spoke badly about her. I just told him Mom was figuring things out, and that we were safe, and that I wasn't going anywhere. Then came the last reach, a message through her lawyer. Kate was requesting supervised visitation. She wasn't asking for shared custody, not yet, but she wanted to see the kids. It felt less like love and more like damage control. I didn't respond. I sent it straight to my attorney and left it at that. I knew what she was doing. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was trying to stay in the story. But the truth was, her chapter was over. And I wasn't interested in giving her another page. 6 months later, life looked nothing like it had before. The air was different. The house breathed easier. The tension that once clung to the walls like smoke had cleared, leaving behind something steady, something real. I'd stopped waiting for the next blow to come. Kate's games had gone silent. No more lawyers, no more twisted posts, no more midnight attempts to guilt me back into the mess. Whatever fire she tried to light, it had burned itself out. The kids and I spent the first week of spring break by the ocean. We stayed in a quiet rental near the coast. Just sand, salt, and peace. Alex was finally smiling like he meant it again. He chased waves with Emma, helped her build crooked little castles, let her bury his feet in the sand like nothing had ever broken their home. Watching them laugh was the first time I let myself believe we were really okay. Not patched up, not just surviving. Whole. Julia sat under the striped umbrella a few yards back, one leg crossed over the other, lost in whatever novel she couldn't put down. She was soft-spoken, careful, but never fragile. The kind of woman who didn't flinch when I told her the truth about everything. She hadn't run from the ugliness. She'd stepped into it without asking for a filtered version. And the kids, they took to her slowly, then fully. Julia never tried to be anything but herself. That was enough. I hadn't planned to open my phone that afternoon, but when I did, I saw her name. Kate. The message was short, just 4 words. I'm ready to change. I read it once. No emotion, no pause. Then I tapped * delete. Just like that, it was gone. No reply, no anger, not even pity. There was nothing left to give her. Nothing she could say to rewrite what she'd done. Her story ended when she chose to build a life on lies and wrap our children in it. That's not something you bounce back from. That's not something you earn back with 4 words. I stood up, brushed sand off my jeans, and walked toward the water. Emma ran to me first, grabbing my hand with her tiny fingers still cold from the sea. Alex followed, grinning, asking if we could stay just a little longer. I looked out at the waves crashing, the sun falling low on the horizon, and pulled out my phone one last time. I took a photo of them, my kids, faces lit with the kind of joy no courtroom or secret ever gets to touch. I saved it, then set the phone away. They were mine, not because of blood, because I chose to stay when everything else fell apart. I looked at them, then at Julia in the distance, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I didn't lose. I broke free. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this, and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.